Pierce, what can we find south of the inlet today on Hutchinson Island? How about some purplish similes, sea glass, lots of jewel boxes, and I'll share a little bit about what I've learned about them. Scaly scallops, paper cockles, baby lightning whelks, a big bubble, and ending with one fantastic hairy Triton and a pretty paw. The storm clouds rolled in, but not before I had the chance to do some shelling. Welcome to Florida Beach Walks. I'm Roxanne. Let's go shelling in Fort Pierce. Last time I was here, I started out north of the jetty and ended up here where I found all the shells. The north was a bit bare, but today the south looks a little bit bare, so maybe the shells are north this time. You never know over here on the East Coast, but let's see what we can find, and we'll start out with a few jingles. Can't go wrong with jingles, huh? Ooh, I see a maculated baby's ear, but I also see this pop of orange on this calico scallop, and let's check this one out. Yay! All right, the front is all there, but like the condition I find these a lot of times, that's so pretty. The back, yeah, is busted. Still holding out for my pretty solid whole maculated or brown baby's ear. And here is the casing of a lightning whelk egg casing. Just a little portion of it. This one looks like it was probably pretty long, but looks pretty empty. Little water in there with just some sand, so all the babies escaped this one, so that's really good. This area was renourished a little while ago. You can see all this white fluffy sand they imported against the coarser dark sand that is normally here. It is quite a task sliding down that hill to get to the beach. If you access that beach area, try to normally go around the inlet side. And the sun is a little bit covered this morning. It's not a perfect sunrise, but beautiful nevertheless. And here is a rough scallop. Nice design on that one. And another piece of casing. This one's a lot smaller, but all the babies look like they've escaped this one too, so that's good. And a yellow prickly cockle. Lacking some color. There's the sunrise in its full glory. So beautiful no matter how many times you see one. Here's a juvenile prickly, very pretty, looks like sherbet, little Papa sherbet, and two lady-in-waiting Venus clams. The only rack line today was the high rack line up near this ledge where they have the new sand. Here is a juvenile calico, pretty orange on that one, and a keyhole limpet. I believe this is the rosy keyhole limpet. Trying to get these keyhole limpets, the names of them down, as well as the jewel boxes. Another jingle, also known as a baby's foot on the inside here. You can see what looks like a baby's footprint. Jingles can also be referred to as mermaid's toenails. Here is a pretty pop of a calico scallop, an orange one. I'll hold on to that one just because of the color. And this morning was a negative low tide, but there just wasn't any rack lines between the high tide line and the water over here. Sometimes there can be. You just never know on the East Coast. So I'm just going to continue checking out the high rack line. Got an orange jingle and a spectral bittersweet clam and the base of a jewel box. This one is cemented by its right valve, so the lid would be the left valve, making this a left-handed jewel box. These grow clockwise, which is opposite to the leafy, cherry, and corrugate jewel boxes, which those grow counterclockwise. In this one particular area, there was lots of egg casing wash-ups, and this one seemed to have a few of the dried up babies in it. You could just hear them all rattling around in there. Here's a little peek at them. So this one probably got just washed up and beached and dried out. So these are safe to collect, and I will hold on to this string because it looked pretty full. The other ones I checked out looked empty, so that's awesome. All the babies are in the ocean flourishing, hopefully. Here's another spectral bittersweet. Love it when they're really contrasted, striped like that. There's a crab hole. You can see the two different colors of sand. The imported fluffy white sand against the coarse sand. I don't know. That hill, when they put, like, you can look at that. It's so much sand that they have piled up, the new sand. All right, so there wasn't a lot on this side of the inlet. And I was debating, do I go across the inlet? Across that inlet right here, across this channel, is the Fort Pierce Inlet State Park. And I was like, do I go here? Do I go south? So I zoomed in a little bit and didn't. That's the island that I normally like to go to also. Not the island, the little outcropping of a beach there on the inlet side. So I just decided, you know what? Instead of hopping across there, I'm going to go ahead and go down south a little further. So I'm a little farther down Hutchinson Island from the inlet. And let's see what we can find here. I was happily surprised. There's a little bit more on the beach between the high rock line and the water. So this will be fun to check out. Lots of turtle tracks. Those tracks right here are turtle tracks. Lots of nests. Lots of nests on this area. All right, so this is what I do like to see. Something on the sand. Something to look through. Lots of shells in the water also. So I'm going to go fishing for shells a little bit later. I don't want to get wet right off the bat here. Here is a turkey wing. This one is really pretty. It looks a little broken, but it wasn't. I flipped it over and I was like, oh, okay. Just grew a little funky at the corner there. Awesome. And a very old knobbed whelk. The opening is to the right there. So you can tell that is a knobbed whelk, which is pretty common for the East Coast. And let's see, a barnacle and a very yellow prickly cockle. Here is a lightning Venus clam or a lightning patar and a Florida prickly cockle. This one's a little surf worn, not too defined. And a magnum prickly cockle. These are found southeast Florida all the way through the Keys and beyond. Caribbean cockle. And that was a yellow prickly. Oh, and I see a thick buttercup. These are kind of like the Pennsylvania, cross between Pennsylvanias and buttercups. There's another yellow prickly. Let's see what else we got. Well, we got another magnum hiding under the seaweed. And an orange purplish simile. These are really pretty. I don't know. I'm still thinking they should be called orange simile. You got the white Atlantic simile. You got the purplish simile that are orange and purple. And here's a really big calico. But we're going to leave those a little bit discolored and chipped. Aha, now here is another jewel box that is growing clockwise. So this is a left-handed jewel box. I was getting those mixed up with the corrugates. I was calling those the corrugates, and they were not. Here is a thick lip drill. These are your more common type of drill on the East Coast, the thick lipped. Here is a tinted cantharus, a little bit surf worn on this one, the tip and all, but here is a much nicer one, a much more defined tinted cantharus. And here is a paper cockle, a broad paper cockle. This is a really pretty peach one. Gorgeous on that. If they were more typically all white, I'd call it the spiny paper cockle. Here is the left cemented valve of a leafy jewel box, a yellow leafy jewel box. So its lid is the right valve. And here's a crown conch, but it's a little too far gone. And a broad-ribbed cardita. Let's collect another lightning Venus clam. Oh, okay, I'm glad I came to this a little bit farther south. Lots of piles to look through. Here's the cemented valves of a leafy jewel box on the left next to a left-handed, also called an Atlantic or Florida jewel box to the right. They are mirror images of each other because they are cemented on different valves. Here is the lid of an Atlantic jewel box. You can see out of the umbo, the oldest part of the shell, it is growing clockwise. So when looking at this open, the left valve is the lid, which is opposite of the leafy corrugate and cherry. Here's the lid of a leafy jewel box, and this has a counterclockwise growth out of the umbo. So when looking at these two together, you can see that they're mirror opposites of each other. Looking at these two jewel box sets open, the Genius Pseudo-Chama on top have a left lid, hence its name, and the bottom Genius Chama in most instances will have a right lid. There are quite a few different jewel box species in Florida. I want to say around 9 I read somewhere, so I'm trying to learn, make my way learning them all. Here's another spectral bittersweet clam, very common shell, very common to find on southeast Florida. And here is a purple calico scallop, very pretty. Is a really pretty dark orange kitten paw. I'm not one to collect a lot of kitten paws, but these orange ones, here's another one. Like this, I really do like the patterning on these. I think they're pretty. Oh, and a deer calorie. Oh, that would have been so exciting. Man, finding calories, especially these deer calories on the beach, is so exhilarating. But not today, just a piece. Got another orange purplish simile. Oh, that's just too confusing. All right, these are going to be the orange similes. Can I rename a shell? Give them a second common name. And here is a stout tagulus, I believe. I do find these a lot on Hutchinson, but this is broken, so we'll leave this one right where I found it. And a hawk wing piece. That would have been fantastic too. And a true tulip piece. Oh, just imagine if those were maybe after a storm. I would have found those whole. Yay! Here is a white Atlantic simile and the lid of a left-handed jewel box, also known as an Atlantic or Florida jewel box. And another turkey wing. All right, this one is very nice as well. See, this one doesn't look chipped to me, and it is not. Very nice. And this was pretty surprising to find in one piece over here on the East Coast. Normally these are broken. This is an angel wing, a Campeche angel wing. Yeah, maybe it was small, that's why it was whole. But a lot of times, just find the broken pieces. Here is another left-handed jewel box. Now this color form, the white with the burgundy, is what I typically would find on shell identification websites and the Bailey Matthews Museum website when identifying the left-handed jewel boxes, unlike the orange ones that I usually find here on Hutchinson. Here is another purplish Atlantic simile and an orange scaly scallop. Really pretty color. I wish it didn't have a little chip on the top there. So here is the bottom of a jewel box, and it has a left cement, and it's whitish pink, so we'll go with a leafy jewel box. Leafy jewel box. Those can get upwards to a little over 3 inches. Yay! And an imperial Venus clam. The only one I found on this walk. It's small, but I'll hold onto it. And here's another Atlantic jewel box lid, or left-handed, or a Florida. Do have a lot of common names. Another scaly. Ooh, great. That one does not have any chips. And here is a pink large stridula. And to the left, another orange, purplish simile. An orange simile. Oh, this stridula has a little bit of a predator hole, countersunk predator hole. All right, some sea glass. I did find a few pieces of sea glass. Got a green here, found a brown, and I found a white one. That's a pretty big chunk. Not too frosted, but frosted enough. Pretty sunshine yellow on the yellow prickly cockle and leafy jewel box lid. Some really pretty calico scallops, purple ones, followed by some Atlantic or left-handed jewel boxes on the bottom. Jewel box lids. Now, I think this is a calico scallop, but honestly, it looks like a cross between a calico and a bay scallop. Here is 2 jewel box lids, a corrugate to the right and a left-handed jewel box to the left. These are the ones I was calling the same species. Here's a really gorgeous example of a leafy jewel box. Just check out the leaves on that. Just so beautiful and delicate. And it is growing counterclockwise out of the umbo there. And here is a left-handed jewel box, the Atlantic jewel box, or the Florida jewel box, growing clockwise out of its umbo. All right, let's see what we got in these piles. Ooh, I see a red-brown arc. My favorite of the arc shells. I really like these. And here's my favorite of the bittersweets, a giant Atlantic bittersweet. Here's a juvenile one. Let's see, we've got, I was checking for the purple. Here is a rough scallop, gorgeous, stunning color, and a calico on the bottom there. Man, that's so beautiful. It's like a really bright peach color. Ooh, here is another large stridula, and it does not look like it has, yay, no holes in that one. Pretty orange on this calico to the right and a scaly to the left. Can you see it? It's a bubble, a big bubble. These bubbles on the East Coast can get so big, and I love them. A striped bubble, a West Indian bubble, an Atlantic bubble. I am not sure about these common names, but I think they have a lot of them. And here's another scaly, but this one is mighty big. Here, I'm going to hold it to another one. Now, here's the typical size scaly. So that's a pretty giant one. Yay, another paper cockle. I do not run across these very often, and this one is a lot, okay, it has a little bit of color, but majority is white, so I'll call this the spiny, the spiny paper cockle, not the broad paper cockle that has a lot of different colors, a broad range of colors. Here is a thorny oyster. Spiny jewel boxes. Oh, I'm getting everything mixed up. Whoa, this is a very beautiful scaly scallop, or also known as a senti scallop. Looks like it was just dipped in some purple. If that was growing, if that continued to grow, I'm sure that would look really pretty with the purple on the outside like that. So I did find some pretty shells, but I really wanted to find like the shell that made the walk. And I wasn't finding it in piles. So, yep, I got my scoop and I went a little fishing, and I'm glad I did because it paid off pretty big in 2 fantastic ways. The first amazing shell, yep, that was my like 3rd or 4th try swiping at it. Was gorgeous. Oh, I was so happy. It was a hairy Triton. I saw it and it kept rolling back in the water. I'm like, no, I'm gonna find the shell. I'm gonna get it. It took me about 5 minutes, but I fished it out and it was pretty. This is the best Atlantic hairy Triton that I have, and even it has a little bit of the hairy periostracum still on it, so it cleaned up really great. I'll show you that at the end, just fabulous. And so, okay, I went again, and all right, I got a calico. It's nothing special, but it's just huge. It's just really, really large calico. So I did hold on to that one. All right, so I moved up a little further because it was starting to get a little bit stormy. So I wanted to be able to bolt out of there if I had to with any lightning, but I did not come across any lightning. So I set the camera down and I went fishing again. Yup, and I snagged it. Okay, I wasn't that excited, but this is really exciting. Oh, there we go. There's the happy dance. I found my favorite shell. Yay, a lion's paw. It's so pretty. I found it upside down, so it was really bright. I'll show you the other side. Let's see. Turn it over, Roxy. There you go. That's how it was, just floating in the water against the other shells. Just gorgeous. Oh, I love fishing for shells. Look, if you have or find shells in the water, don't be afraid to go in there and see what you can scoop out, because you never know. So the storm clouds did roll in, and this just looks so majestic. When I look at stuff like this, I can't help but think of the power of God. That's the only thing that comes to my mind when I look at such beauty, even in a storm cloud. The verse that I'm thinking about now is, "Be still and know that I am God." That's from Psalms 46:10. Is a handful of the favorite shells that I found on Hutchinson Island in Fort Pierce, and here are all of these shells from my beach walk south of the Fort Pierce Inlet. So happy to have fished out the beautiful lion's paw and stunning Atlantic hairy Triton. Here is the bottle of those lightning whelks that I fished out of the egg casing that I found right around the inlet. The ones I found on the west coast are a little bit more stripier, so these were a little bit more of a cream, a solid color. Here's the hairy Triton, all cleaned up. Still has a little bit of a green tinge to it, even soaking in some bleach there. Look at the teeth, and the aperture is just stunningly gorgeous. But all the hair did clean off in a little bit of a bleach bath. Beautiful, beautiful specimen of a Triton. Also some gorgeous rough scallops there to the left, to the right, and beautiful Sintes, scaly scallops, gorgeous on those. The drill and the crown conch were nice. Also, the purplish similes are really pretty. The turkey wings are nice, and I went ahead and did get an arc shell that I already turned into one of my keychain pendants. A lot of nice shells, even though they are broken in the back. I love how they look all together. Lots of jewel box lids, and can't believe I found that intact Campeche angel wing. That was really nice. Love the brown or meticulated baby's ear. And the paper cockles were very nice. The spiny paper cockle and the broad paper cockle. Just gorgeous. Love that bubble also. Beautiful colors and textures. And I surrounded the whole display with those spectral bittersweet clams. Thank you so much for watching, liking, and subscribing. And until next time, I leave you with this.